Welcome to the Rise Up Show. This is episode 105. And today's episode, I'm proud to host a coach who is a business developer and an international speaker. He started his journey in 2007. He was unemployed, saving to get married, and was convinced to spend a weekend in London where the seeds were planted. Along his way, he struggled with being focused, family and friends thinking it will fail. He had to convince his niche he was good enough for them. Since those changes, he has been able to move his family overseas. For the last 10 years, he has been the #1 in his niche, and he is ready to help you too. So let me introduce him, David. How are you, David?
Eden, I'm great. It's hard, isn't it, doing an introduction? But you did that so well. And yeah, thank you for asking. I'm super cool. I always am. I got friends, Eden. You know what it's like. Yeah. You speak to your friends, you pick the phone up, and you say, "Hey, how you doing?" And they go, "Yeah, I'm okay." And I don't say that. When my friends pick the phone up to me or like message me, "Hey Dave, how you doing?" And I go, "I'm 7 out of 10. I'm always at least 7 out of 10.
Nice.
I don't do okay. Okay is like 4 or a 5 or maybe a 6. I'm always at least a 7. So now my friends send me a text or Facebook Messenger and they go, "Hey Dave, how you doing? Are you a 7 today?" And I go, "No, I'm an 8 or I'm a 9 or whatever." It's how you got to look. It's life, don't be okay. Okay, satisfactory. Anyway,
exactly. Okay, it's average. So tell us the short version on who you are.
Oh, geez. The short version. I wasn't born with any privileges, put it that way. Lovely family, lovely parents. I grew up in Derbyshire, Nottinghamshire, which is a mining area in the United Kingdom. It's quite depressed. There wasn't a lot of money in that area. We went through big recessions, huge unemployment, and it has a massive effect on the local mentality. There were no thought leaders out there. There were no people really trying to push us and help us. Growing up in the 80s was pretty difficult. School was hard. Went through school and I came out with nothing. I really did come out with nothing. I just didn't have to focus. I wasn't interested. I knew I was smart, but why bother? That was my thing. I just didn't give a crap about school, and lots of my friends felt the same. And it took me a long time to find what I wanted to start as doing life. I started to make some money. Then I went to university when I was 25, met my wife there. Things started to grow. And then one day, Amelie, who was my girlfriend at the time, my fiance, she said, "If we're going to get married," my wife's French, she said, "I don't want to live in England the rest of my life. I want to live in France." And it was that I said, right, okay, I need to do something where I can work anywhere, where I can be unemployable. Excuse me. Let me rephrase that. Not be unemployable. You got to remember that where I grew up, I remember seeing my mum being made unemployed. My dad was a contractor. He was being made unemployed all the time. I knew lots of people that were unemployed. And I needed to work overseas. I needed to protect myself. How can I protect myself from a recession? And by the way, I built my business during the worst recession. That's when I built my business. I mean, the recession hit us in 2008, and it was a devastating effects for a number of years. And that's when I started to build my business. So my business is recession-proof. Wow. Yeah. So
during the recession.
Yeah, huge unemployment, And I'm going, right, I'm building my business right now. And that's what I did. I know it's concrete, bulletproof. And that's where we've got to be, It's we can't rely on local economies because we could have a national recession or a local depression, and it can ruin people. You don't go out for a job. If you don't have a job, you don't get paid. You don't get paid, you can't buy things. You depend on other people. It restricts your opportunities. It restricts your family. I was not going to have that. I went through it. I lived through it. I saw my mum and dad struggle. I worked really hard. I remember it was about 1990, and my mum sat me down and she said, "David, we are going through a very, very hard time. The interest rates for the mortgages were going like this.
Wow.
The mortgage price tripled. It went from like 5% to 15% overnight. Britain was having a really hard time with what was called the European exchange rate mechanism, where we're trying to keep in line with other European countries. And John Major was the Prime Minister, and I think it got like the interest rate was something like 17%. It was huge. And my mum sat me down and she said, "David, I've got something to tell you. We are struggling." And I was 14 years old, and she had to have that conversation with me because it was that bad. And we almost lost the house.
Wow.
We had to make huge cutbacks on everything. Mum started growing stuff in the garden for food and stuff like that. And we weren't the only family. I don't want my family in that position. So by working online, working with different people in different countries, having different products to sell and stuff like that, that's where to be. What I've been over the last 10 years, I've just been working with people in one country, which I'll come on to in a minute, but it has recession-proof me.
Nice. So even in the recession, you actually grow. Even in the low places, you grow.
Yeah, because if times are really tough and you start just with the little seeds, then you don't have to be making big money. But if you can start making the big seeds in the recession, I said to myself, if I can do this now, and I had to do it then because we were getting married and things like that. If we can do this now, what would it be like when people have got money to spend? And my business went like that, went huge.
From our darkest moment, we grow the most. It reminds me about the bamboo tree. The bamboo tree is growing around 5 years it takes to grow. So in those 5 years, you're just watering it. And if let's say you are putting it in your garden and you water every day, and the people ask, "What the hell are you doing? There's nothing grow there." Well, what are you doing? Are you stupid? Nothing grow. And you keep on watering for 1 year, 2 years, and they keep on asking, "What are the fuck are you doing? What is going on? Are you maniac? Go do something else. Go plant something else. Why are you watering the ground? Nothing grows." And in 5 years, it grows. After 5 years, it grows up to 9 feet, if I'm not mistaken, in a couple of weeks. In a couple of weeks, bam. Wow. Like that. So it's exactly like in business. It takes time. You need to work it. And exactly like you said, in the recession time, you plant the seeds. And now you're soaring.
Have patience. There was a time when I was unemployed, and there was a time when I was employed. But even when I was employed, when I was unemployed, that's when the ideas started to come to me. But when I was employed is when I started to put this into action. So I was working I was at 8 in the morning, home at 6 at night, and then I was working on my computer in the evening. But I didn't see it as work because I refuse to watch television. Not that I turned it off, but I don't watch the operas, I don't watch these series and stuff like that. I'm more interested in me. I sat there with my laptop. I got myself a free laptop. I couldn't afford one. So what I did is I changed my mobile phone contract. And there was a thing, if you went to a different mobile phone supplier, they gave you a free laptop. Like, right, okay, I'm now a free laptop. Cool. So that's what I did.
Nice. Awesome leverage. Amazing leverage. And Though in those places that you're sitting and you're just working and working, like you said, you didn't watch TV. You put the grind on it. And I myself had around 80 days ago, I started a challenge with myself to not watching series, because I noticed how much time it takes. Yeah. So when I sat with my mentor, like we try to understand where my time goes, and a lot of my time, without even notice, was on series. You know, you say 5 minutes there, and then boof, an hour go, like that. And since then, I started to accomplish so much without series.
And if you watch Netflix, you know, you can watch episode 1, and episode 2, and episode 3, and all of a sudden a whole morning's gone. And there's nothing wrong doing that every now and again. But what I had to do is, I enjoyed watching certain things on television. I enjoyed doing certain things. What I had to do, and this is really important, is you've got to find enjoyment in your work, especially if you're going to work online and at home, because it is quite solitary. You are on your own. So you must find enjoyment in it. So some days people go, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to help people become dog groomers, or I'm going to sell iPhone covers. That's fine. But you've got to have an enjoyment doing it. Now, every day I have not worked for the last 10 years because I enjoy what I do. I see it as a hobby, as an interest, and it just happens to pay me money. And my hobby and interest relates to sales and marketing and buying psychology. I like that sort of stuff. It gets me excited. So speaking to people about it, hearing about it, helping other people with it, I can see those work. So I don't go to work.
Yeah, when you're in the passion, it's like a game. You're just playing.
It is. It's a game, yeah. For years, I think, when did the first edition come out? I was maybe 13 or 14 years old, and a game came out, a computer game called Football Manager, Championship Manager. And I tell you now, I played that game from the age of 14, and I bought every single edition up until I was about 35.
Wow.
I played that for 20 years. Right, I bought every edition. I even, after when I started my business up, I was still buying it because it's my little hobby. You know, I don't think I've not bought for the last 5 or 6 years. But from the age of 14 to the age of 35, for 20 years, I played Championship Manager, which then turned into Football Manager, and I would spend hours on the computer playing that game. I loved it. I used to take my team, Nottingham Forest, and we won European Cups and everything underneath me. But what I was doing is, even though I enjoyed it, I was wasting my time in my life. It was escapism. That's what it was. And I see these people going around playing Call of Duty, you know, Black Ops and all this sort of stuff, which is fun. But they play it hours on end, and it's escapism. And I had to say to myself, I've got to stop this. But I found enjoyment in my business. And I don't know the last time I played Football Manager or Championship Manager. Maybe I couldn't even do it now. I was awesome. I was really good. I used to go around and play at my mate's house. I was 24, 25, working in recruitment. So I'd finish my job at 5:30. Then I'd drive to my friend's house. There were 2 guys living together. They were renting together. And we used to go and play Football Manager for the night, 6:30 till about midnight, a couple of drinks, have a Chinese takeaway. And we did that 5 nights a week.
Wow.
Yeah. I wasted it because I wasn't having any enjoyment with it. If I was 25 now, and we had the internet then, but not in the same way. You know, we're talking 17 years ago. And we certainly didn't have the opportunities that we have now. We live in a fantastic time. This is the best day of humanity ever to live in.
Definitely.
If I could then take that back, if I could take myself as a 25-year-old now, then I would get my friends doing business things with me and have fun making money online and what have you not. That's the sort of group that
and not Football Manager.
No, you know. You can go over in the evening to your friends, order a Chinese in, get some pizza in, have a couple of beers, and just work together. Oh, I just made $50. Oh, I just made $200, and have that sort of competition. That would have been
That's
so
more
much.
amazing game.
That's a great game, yeah.
So, David, how did you start your business?
Oh, that's a really good question. So I'd walked out of a job. I didn't like it. I'd only been there a couple of months. And you were, where was I? I'd come home. I told my girlfriend, who's now my wife, that's your friend, just kill it. And,
yeah, I'm certain.
That's okay. That weekend, I had a friend. I used to work for him. His name's Nick. He phoned me up and he said, "Hey, David, I'm going to an internet marketing conference this weekend. Are you interested in coming? It's in London." I said, "Nick, I've got no money. I've just walked out of my job. I've got some commitments to my girlfriend and to the house that we live in terms of paying bills. I cannot justify going away for a weekend. You got to pay for the ticket. Wasn't a lot, but the fuel, getting there, the hotel, the lot." And I said, "I'm not really interested in internet marketing. I did this at university. It was crap." And he said, "No, David, this is amazing. You've got to come. You've got to come." I said, "Nick, I can't afford it." He said, "David, look, I'm going to take you and you're going to pay me back in the future." I went, "Okay, I'll do it." So I did. And I did this internet marketing weekend with these people. The Internet Marketing Centre is a guy called Derek Gell, who I've recently tracked down and thanked him. And I ended up buying that and another one. And I learned all this stuff about internet marketing and how to make money online. I thought, wow, this is it. This is the solution. This is how I can start to build a business. But I needed to find a niche, or a niche, as the Americans call it. And that was really difficult. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know. My mum, she was making wedding cakes, and she was making fancy flowers out of sugar for wedding cakes. And I said, "Mom, I'm gonna record you making these, and then we're gonna sell it right across the internet. People are gonna love you. People are gonna buy the videos, and we're gonna be rich." And my mum just said to me, "Oh, that sounds great, but if you sold all these videos, nobody would be buying wedding cakes from me." So we lived in this small town, and she couldn't get the concept of she wouldn't need to, and it wouldn't affect her business anyway. And I realised that wasn't for me. There was no passion in that. I wouldn't enjoy that. And it took me 6 months to actually find what I wanted. And it's really, really important to get the niche. You really got to have a passion there. And again, I was working for Nick. I'd worked for him before, and that ended. Fine. He closed his business down. He changed what he was doing. He then asked me to go on this internet marketing weekend. And 6 months later, he rings me up. He said, "Hey, David, I'm doing some sales training." He works in the car dealership industry. "I need somebody to help me. Can you come along?" So I said, "I'll do some sales training with you. I know what we're talking about." And I was his facilitator. He was the trainer. I was the facilitator. And I've been doing this for a while. And then in the recession, we had to find a way of this car dealership of getting more leads. So the sales staff for the car dealership, under my guidance and Nick's, they went out and made these phone calls to different companies. And one of these types of companies were driving schools. And they phoned these driving schools, and a few things happened. One, they weren't answering the phone. Two, it was going to an answer phone sometimes, and that answer phone would be nothing, wouldn't be a personal answer phone. It would be the manufacturer's tone. Or three, their wife would answer the phone, because this was a male-dominated industry at the time. And when we did actually finally get through to somebody, the driving instructor wasn't interested, didn't understand, or in some instances was quite nasty. And I thought, this is strange. We're offering an opportunity to a business to say, "Hey, you know people that need to buy cars. If you send them to us and they buy from us, we'll give you money." That was the process. That's what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And these driving instructors were not interested. And I thought, this is peculiar. And then it dawned on me, what if these people are not business savvy? So I did a little bit of research. I started speaking to a few driving instructors myself. And you would think from the outset, and by the way, driving schools in the UK are businesses. They don't source pupils or learner drivers how they do in, let's say, the States or Canada or whatever not. They're little businesses, and they've got to find their own customers, and they bring the customers in, and they sell a course, and they would do something like 40 or 50 hours of tuition with that person, because it's difficult to pass the driving test in the UK.
Okay.
You need water. So I got speaking to them, and I realized that a lot of these people are not business people. They became driving instructors because they were made redundant. They became unemployed. They couldn't find work. And they didn't come from, the vast majority didn't come from a business background. They didn't have sales experience. They didn't have marketing experience. Hello. Who enjoys sales? Who enjoys marketing? I love sales.
Bing, bing, bing.
Bing, bing, bing. Now, before, I've been looking at how I can help small businesses, but nobody was really interested. It's too widespread. But now I've got myself a niche. So I did some investigating. Today, there are about 40,000 driving instructors in the United Kingdom. So that's quite a tight niche. So I've got a niche I can work with, which is great. I can get into that niche. Then I started speaking to a few driving instructors, finding about their problems with sales and marketing. And that's how it started. That's how I got into that.
Awesome. Amazing. And all of that you did in the recession. And in those times, the internet wasn't so like today, right? It was like very slow. So you didn't even have the opportunity to promote it as you can promote today. And you still did it.
That's quite right. There were not actually that many people advertising themselves as driving instructors on the internet then. Many were still using the yellow pages. And even though there are 40,000 driving instructors in the industry, half of them, or maybe more than half, would actually get their work from what we would call a franchise, like a national company. So that the work has been provided. Some of their clients have been sourced for them. So my niche really was perhaps less than 15,000 people.
Wow. That's amazing. What was the most beneficial thing for you when you focused on the niche?
I could talk their language. So the thing is let's say you're looking at helping small businesses. There are millions of different types of small business out there with different languages. And now I'm not talking about English, French, Spanish, Hebrew, German, or whatever. I'm talking about the words that they use within their profession. You see, people do buy from people, and there are a million organizations out there that can help small businesses. And I would have drowned in that, nobody would have seen me. But nobody was helping this specific type of group. So if I got to know them and got to understand not just their problems relating to me, but understood what they go through daily, then I would then create a stronger relationship. Things would become more relatable. So for example, I could talk about three things, and you won't know what they are. I'll explain them to you. I can talk about PDIs, I can talk about ADIs, and I can talk about standards check, and I can talk about part 1, part 2, part 3, and going pink. All of that to you is jargon. You don't understand that. But a PDI is a potential driving instructor, somebody who's training. An ADI is an approved driving instructor, somebody that has qualified. A standards check is a check that comes around every few years to making sure it's a government check to make sure that the skills of the driving instructor are up to standard. The part 1, the part 2, and the part 3 is the qualifying process. Now, if you're an outside company that's got nothing to do with the niche, and you say, oh yeah, I can help your business, they'll have a look. But then if you start actually talking the language and you understand them and understand what they go through, that relationship becomes stronger, and that's what it did. So the next thing that I did is I started speaking to driving instructors, and I started to sit in on lessons. What's it like to be a driving instructor? Now, I am not a driving instructor, never have been, never will be, don't want to be, it's not for me. But I needed to know what it was like. to be in their life. So I sat in on the back of driving lessons. I realized that they were dealing with customers. I realized that these customers came with problems. Some of these customers are age 17 and 18. Some of the driving instructors are 40 and 50. Huge age gap, huge difference in the personalities. What did these customers bring to the business? Well, sometimes they brought cancellations. Sometimes they didn't pay. So I wasn't just looking at this from a sales and marketing perspective in terms of how I can help them, but I wanted to know what their daily life was like. Because as soon as I can understand what their daily life was like, I would never be one of them, but I could understand them, and then that would open the market up for me.
Yeah, understand them, their wants and needs and their difficulties.
Absolutely, but it wasn't just the wants and needs from the services that I provided. It was holistic, it was far wider. I help on sales and marketing, but it's good to know that actually one of the first things I learned was they said to me, because I wrote this ebook, and I said, there you go, here's an ebook, that'll teach you how to do sales and marketing.
Yeah.
And they came back to me, like my little focus group, and they said, David, we've not done business before. You're talking in words that we've never seen before. We don't know how to set up a website. What is WordPress? What is search engine optimization? What is that? How do we do that? So I had to realize and take this down to a very, very low level. When I say low level, I mean introductory level. So people can understand that. And then they said to me, hey, David, you know, you've given these marketing activities, the ones that we do understand look fabulous, they look great. But when do we actually get the time to do that? Because we're working in our car all day. And then they said to me, David, when we're not working in our car, some of the marketing that you've suggested that we do understand, we're not prepared to do that because we're out of our comfort zone. So what I found out, one of the big learnings was actually to find what they want to do, how they want to do it on their own terms with their restrictions. And that was mega important. That was really, really important when you go into a niche. And that's what I did. And that's one of the big things I took away.
Yeah, of course. It's very important when you're focusing on the niche and you know where you're at, who is your ideal client. But I'm sure that some of the audience must be wondering, if you're focusing on one place, don't you risk losing potential customers?
I hear that all the time. It's a great question. So I help people. I'm actually just putting a program together now. It's called Niche Marketing Hero. And I started doing this stuff a few months ago, and it's where I'm just kind of taking my business. I'll talk about it later. And the reason why I'm setting up Niche Marketing Hero is because of exactly that same question. People say to me, David, if you put all your eggs in one basket, what about the dentists? What about the plumbers? What about the opticians? What about every other business out there? And my answer to that is this: if you provide a service to every business out there without finding one problem, because you can provide a service to all these different services, all these different service providers, but then you have to focus in on one problem. So you have to understand them in a different way. But what I did by concentrating on one problem or one industry is that my answer to this is this: there are 40,000 prospects. How many people do I need to work with? I mean, if you're providing, let's say, local search engine optimization services, let's say that you do SEO, you put people on the first page of Google, and let's say you do that locally for local businesses, and let's just say, I'm going to say you charge $500 a month, whatever, right? So you got, where's my calculator? You got 500, so you got 40,000 people in your industry, but you're charging $500 a month for your services. You only need 100 people to make $50,000 a month. You know?
Yeah.
So when people say to me, yeah, but David, why you risk losing all these other customers. And actually, the funny thing is, when I niched down and started working with one specific type of customer, and they realized I was the expert in that. So I could have been the expert in anything else, and it could have been right across. It could have been the expert in setting up Excel, for example. It's not a great thing. And that could be in any industry, and you probably don't get a lot of money from it. But it doesn't matter. I became an expert in one thing. This became driving school marketing, and those people, I get recommendations from my clients, and they say to me, David, do you work with other industries? And I'll say, what do you mean? And they'll say, well, I've got a friend who's a plumber, and he really needs you. Or I've got a friend who's a coach. Or in fact, I've got one client, he said, my wife's a coach. I'm like, right, okay. What does she want to do? She wants to get out there. Yeah, okay, I can help her. So my name, my branding has been driving school marketing, but I actually do pick up work elsewhere if I want to take it. But
if you choose to take it, yeah.
If you choose to take it. But remember, my niche is tiny. 40,000 people? That's it. 40,000 is nothing. And all I need is 100 people. And you sell your products at $500 a month, boom. And you might be thinking, yeah, but David, it's not like that. I sell a product that's this a month or that a month. It doesn't matter. What can you make from it? Does it have to be 100? It could be 300. It could be 500. It could just be 10 or 20 people. But to answer your question, no, a niche specializes you. You stand out. It's easy for people to see you. You become the expert far quicker. Because you become the expert, people gravitate to you. Let me see if I've got it down here. If I can put it out. Where is it? I've got some magazines. Here we go. It was a top drawer. I've kept these magazines. I don't do this anymore. This, I don't know if you can see it. This is October 2010.
Okay. So
this is a
long time ago.
Yeah, but I just don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. I do a few blog posts and what have you. But this is a nice glossy magazine, right? And if I can find it, I must have written about 50 of these. So this is called ADI News. So ADI, Approved Driving Instructor. Here I am. There's a picture of me. See my name? I must have been in 50 of those editions. Why? They picked the phone up and they said, hey, David, we realise that you do marketing for driving instructors. Can you do something for us? Yeah. But
because you specialize in one niche.
Because I specialize in one niche.
Yeah. That's true, because if we're like scattered and we don't like put it in one place, like imagine that you're going inside your car and you're driving and driving and driving, and you keep on driving, but you didn't set place, destination where you focus on, where you're going. How can you get to that place? You will get somewhere, but you will never get to the place that you want because you didn't set that place, that niche, that target, if you will.
And a great example of that, of what you're saying, and to tie it in with mine, is this. Everybody knows somebody that can design a website. Everybody knows somebody that can design a website. And people go, oh, you see it on Google. You see it on Facebook. Does anybody know a website designer who you can recommend to me? And you'll get loads of recommendations. And they'll go, oh, they recommended me, blah, blah, blah. It's ever so cheap. It's only $200 or $500. Have you ever seen a website designer who earns decent cash? I tell you, there are very, very few of them. The ones that do it, who make the decent cash, have realized they need to be specialists. They either get people working underneath them and they spend their time on their marketing, or they become a specialist, because the vast majority of website designers, and I'm talking like 95% of them, they work from home and they charge not a lot of money. And they will say, oh yeah, I do website design. I can make you a website for a business. And they're not niching, they're not specializing.
You're not master of your own niche, and that's a problem.
No.
Yeah.
Now, I've stopped doing website design because I'm bored with it, right? And I don't like getting paid. I don't like getting paid by the hour. I like money to be coming in each month for subscribers. But my websites, on average, were 3 times the amount in terms of cost of what they were paying elsewhere. And I was selling more than enough. Why? Because people pick the phone up. Oh, hi, David. I wonder if you can help me. I need a new website for my drive to school. My first question would be, why have you chosen me? Because you work with driving schools and you know what you're talking about. That's what
because they know that you're the person to go to because you're specialized in one thing. Not 10 things, not 20 things, just one. And they will go to the expert.
Absolutely.
Exactly like we're going to a doctor. If we broke a leg, we will go to the orthopedian. If we just sick, we will go to the family doctor. So they're specialized in one niche. You take one thing. So
I would say to you,
what is it?
I would say to them, you do realize you can get this cheaper elsewhere.
Yeah.
And they say, yeah, but I want it to work. And as soon as they phoned me up, it was sold.
True that. When you specialize in one thing and you master it at your own field, they know that they will come to you because they know that you are the master, if you will. Yeah. So, David, how do you keep momentum and being the best version of yourself?
Could you repeat that? I misheard you.
Yeah, sure. How do you keep momentum and being the best version of yourself?
Get a mentor, get a coach. It took me a long while to do this. I think if I'd got a coach or a mentor before, and I go through coaches and mentors, I don't have one relationship lasting me for 6 months or 12 months. That's not me. But I put people around me. And in fact, this morning, when I was speaking to a lady who's over in Egypt, and I said to her, this is a project I'm working on right now. I know you've got some of the skills. I want to use you for some of the skills where you're doing it. But we both speak the same language. You're not really teaching me anything. She knew that. We're both reading from the same page. But I want you to do a little bit for me. But I want you to keep me accountable. And it's that. So it's putting people around you that can keep you accountable. Another thing as well, I just need to move my page over. I bought this from Amazon. So I have a diary. This is my to-do list. So I've got must do today, a to-do list, which is not a priority, appointments for today, a need to get, food, so the food I'm eating, the fruit and veggies, my health tracker, and some notes.
Nice.
I can't show you what I've written down today, because that's a blank for tomorrow. I do that. Put somebody around you, even if you've got to pay for it, to make you accountable and to have it written down there. And I also went out. I can't show it you. It's upstairs. I bought myself a really nice journal for the year. You know, not like I spent some good money on it. It looks nice. I'm proud to have it, and I write everything down there. And that's the answer to the question.
I just love it. You know, when we think that we can manage everything alone and things just go delaying, when we have a mentor that keep us accountable for what we need to do and give us the actions tools from time to time and give us some useful things that we need along the way. Maybe it's a motivation, maybe a solid tool that can lift us up. This is why we take mentors, because they keep us accountable. Even the greatest persons in the whole world, like if you go for Tony Robbins, Jay Shetty, Dean Graziosi, I'm sure they have their own person that they go and talk with, and they keep him accountable for the actions that they need to do. Doesn't matter how grow you are, how much big you are, you also all the time need that person that keep you accountable. If it's accountability quality or a mentor.
I know there are people out there selling coaching services, and I know there are people out there selling mentoring services. But for me, I like a slight mix of both, because coaching, if somebody coaches me, and I've had this before, oh, David, I'll coach you, never coach me, and I've got bored, because I know what questions they're going to ask. I can coach myself, I'm not and I don't feel accountable. But when there's mentoring thrown into it as well, where they ask me questions to extract information, but then with mentoring, they can guide me as well. But then they get me to pass on a goal. So a goal is something you want to achieve with a date to it. That works better for me.
A smart goal,
No, don't work with smart goals. They're crap.
But you put time to it. You know what you need to do.
Yeah, I do put time to it, but I can never work with smart goals. A guy told me it's called David Heiner. Go to davidheiner.com. That's Hyner. He's a good friend of mine, and he's one of my mentors when I pick the phone up every now and again. And David went out there and he interviewed top achievers. So what do I mean by top achievers? Top business people, sports stars, Olympians. And you know what? Not one of them said to him, go out there and get a smart goal. Not one of them. Smart goals do not work. If you want to be average, get a smart goal. If you want to be awesome, rip up the rule book and go out there and completely smash it. And David refers to it as going rhino. So yeah, have a look at him, davidheiner.com. Don't do smart goals. If you want to be mediocre, that's your business. I've got no problem with that. That's fine. Go and do smart goals. It's measured, it's achievable, it's realistic, it's on time. Specific, isn't it? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, on time.
Yeah.
Top achievers do not deal with smart goals. Top achievers stop watching the television. They get up early before anybody else. There was a really good interview.
Create habits.
Create habits. There was a really good interview. Now, I'm not into tennis, the sport. And I'm not quite sure if I'm going to get the names right, but Andy Murray, I will get his name right. Somebody interviewed him, and he said, and the interview went like this: how many times do you train a week? And he said, 7 days a week. And the guy went, what, 7 days a week? And he went, yeah. And he said, why 7 days a week? And then he mentioned the biggest tennis player in the world. I think it was Nadal or something like that. And he said, I do 7 days a week because Nadal only does 6. Right? And then, and this was before Andy Murray became the #1 and won Wimbledon and what have you not. He wanted to be a top achiever. He didn't do smart goals. He knocked it out the park. You know, all your top achievers, all your Olympians, your top cyclists, everybody, they don't do smart. They put everything in. They become focused on that. They become focused on their family. Family comes first, then it's everything else. Don't do the television. They get up earlier. They go to bed later. Their habits are all about the things they want to do. Forget smart. Sorry, bit of a tangent there, but there we go.
No, that's true. I'm agree on that. What I meant about smart goal is that you have a time and you know that you need to do it. It doesn't matter what is the goal.
Yeah, that's the proper goal. You've got the achievement, you know you want to do, and you put a date next to it. I'm going to do it by then.
Yeah, you're acting smart, if you will.
Acting smart, yeah. Okay.
And like you said, creating the habits are the most important thing, because if we don't have those habits, we're losing track all over again. Because, okay, we put goals, but we don't have the system for it, the habits that take us to it.
Completely agree. I'm a little bit overweight, right? And one of the reasons why I'm a little bit overweight is because I sit here at my desk and I'm exercising and stuff like that. And I've tried to lose a little bit of weight over the last year, and it hasn't really worked for me. So what I've done is I've joined a group, a guy called Ben Horton. He's on my friends list if anybody's interested. And I've joined his group. It's cost me next to nothing. It's great. And he's made me accountable, and he's set me targets. And part of my target is fasting. I now fast for 16 hours a day. In fact, in 13 minutes time, I can start eating, which is great. And he's set me targets to drink water. Now, these targets are massive, but because I started to achieve these targets, I've seen gains. And that's really important. And that's been important throughout my business as well.
Nice. I love it. Also the mentors, as you mentioned, and also the journal that you're doing. It's very important because journal gives you also a reflection, what you have done, what you can do, how can you lift it, how can you leverage it. I myself do it. That's the third diary that I'm writing, diary journal, because it keeps you also accountable for yourself. You know what you're doing and how can you improve it. So that's a great habit that you started. Love it. So what is the biggest struggle you experienced and how did you overcome it?
The biggest struggle and how did I overcome it? The biggest struggle was perhaps my niche. I have never been a driving instructor. So you will find people within your niche that will say, well, you've never done that. How can you teach us? And there are people out there right now, today, who are happy to throw a can of tomatoes at me. Oh, David, you're just here to take money out of us. And that was my biggest struggle, understanding how those people worked. So what I had to do is I had to prove myself. So I kept on going back and working with clients. Sometimes at the beginning, I work for free. I work for free so I can prove my results and get a testimonial. Even
that's
then,
also proof that you love what you do.
It is proof that I love what I do, you're right.
Yeah.
But even, I realized, even with all these testimonials, there's still people, and there still are people that say, I don't like you, David, I don't trust you, you're not a real driving instructor, you're here to literally steal money from us, David. And some people say that. How did I overcome that? Well, I had to look at myself, and I had to say, David, what do I do? Am I wholesome with what I do? Yes, I am. Do I help all my clients as much as I possibly can? Yes, I do. Do I actually achieve results? Yes, I do. Okay, so I've ticked those boxes. Have I got testimonials and case studies? Yes, I have. Are there still people out there that just don't want to like me? Yes. Then I asked myself this, and this is how I overcame it. Do they deserve my time? No.
Yeah, hell no.
So what did I do? I deleted them from Facebook. I blocked them from Facebook. If I see them throwing stuff at me, I just ignore it. Why? Because the people that are really important to me are the people that are my followers, that are my supporters, that I do help, and they pay me. Now, they're always going to find somebody that doesn't like you. It doesn't matter if you are Madonna, Taylor Swift, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, Mahatma Gandhi, the Dalai Lama, you know?
There will always be haters.
There will always be haters. And the best thing that you can do is just get rid of them. Overcome rejection, right? Overcome rejection and then ignore them. That's it. It took me a long while because I'm the sort of guy that takes things personally. I'm the sort of guy that wants to help everybody because I believe in myself. I know I can help everybody. But the thing is, some people don't want helping. Some people are anarchists to themselves and to others. They don't want helping, and what they want to do is they want to destroy. And the reason why they want to destroy is because they are already destroyed themselves. They are unhappy people, they're sad with themselves, and they only want to see other people unhappy and sad.
Exactly.
And you can't change them. They can only change themselves. So ignore them. And that's what I did.
That's how you also keep your mentality strong. I love how you did it. That's very wise what you did, because it's like to say no to the haters and focusing on yourself, on your audience, on your family, and focus on who are you promoting, who are you helping. It's not so, it's very challenging place, but you overcome it. And there will always be haters. As long as you keep on growing, there will be more haters all the time. The question is what we are doing. Exactly like you said, ignore them. because they're not worth our time. They're not worth it.
Here's another way of looking at it. If anybody watching this right now has got haters and doesn't know how to deal with it, think of it like this. Who's paying your mortgage? Who's paying your rent? Who puts food on your table? Is it the haters or the followers and the people that like you? Of course, it's the followers and the people that like you. So why are you giving your time in an unproductive way? Because if you were an employee and you're asked to do a job, your manager would be very unhappy if you were doing something that was unproductive, that was not doing that job. So you've got to step out of that zone. If it's unproductive, if it's not helping you, if it's not supporting you, get rid of it.
Exactly. Love it. Really, you're so right, because haters are there and they won't pay you the mortgage. They don't pay you the food. They will never buy from you. They are in the lower place of their life. And most of them will not change. They will stay in their miserable life, if you will. And because they don't see the ways to develop, they grow in a low mentality. And when we understand that they come from a place that could be their family had issues, they got their mindset from their friends when they were little, and they stay in that fixed state of mind. So why should we give time to them? And we should give the time to our people that love us, people that...
And we don't need to argue with these people, because as soon as we start to engage with them, what happens is we lower our standards to their stupid standards, and then they beat us with their experience, Stay away from it.
Exactly. Just keep on going. Ignore them. They're not worth our time. And they will stay in that place. So why should we bother?
Enough of them. What's your next question?
So what is the biggest struggle your clients experience?
That's a good question. The biggest struggle my clients experience. They actually might think it could be a technical issue, such as something to do with marketing or sales. But quite often it's self-belief. I would say quite commonly self-belief. Yeah.
Can you share with us some success stories from your clients?
Oh, yeah. I think they'd be happy for me to mention their names as well. Start with Kevin Graham. He's a great guy. I love this bloke. I've been working with Kevin for 5 years now, and he'd already been a driving instructor for about 10 years by the time I started working with him. Sometimes he'd work for himself, and then sometimes he'd go and work for another company. And when he contacted me, he was like, he was down. He was... I'm working for a company. I don't have the hours that I need. I don't have enough hours. I need to be on myself, but just don't know how or why. And the things I put around him was a good website and search engine optimization. But the real ingredients, because we worked together a lot on the phone, was self-confidence. Yeah. With self-belief. I showed him how he could do that. And there's no point in me giving you the figures, because in terms of the financials, and they're his financials, I can't share them. But I can tell you that his business grew by 50%. I can tell you that. And that was just an amazing thing. And he goes out there and does things. Now, I'll show you an example of another guy. Woody was never a client in terms of, he was for a while, a paying client. He came to me, it was 7 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. It was November. And I'm okay to have this conversation with you. I've got his permission. He phoned me up and he said, David, I've been following you for some time. I need some help. I said, okay, what's the problem? And he started crying. I said, okay, what's the real problem? He said, I've got no business. I've got nothing. Christmas is coming soon. Never mind Christmas presents for my children. I can't even put food on the table. I went, right, okay. So we peeled the layers back. He thought it was a marketing issue. It was a marketing issue. He didn't know how to market. So I taught him. I helped him for free on how to market his business. By the end of January, by the way, he had a full diary and a waiting list, which was great. But the real thing there was confidence. He didn't believe in himself. And I said, look, if we do this and we get these little small victories, we got a little small victory on the Monday. And on the Tuesday, we got a little small victory. And on the Wednesday, we got a little small victory. And he could see people coming in and starting to buy from him. And as he did that, and he could see that his efforts created a positive result. And that positive result created money, which then was able to pay the bills and was able to put the food on the table for him to have a Christmas. Where he is today, he actually now helps other driving instructors. So he's gone up. He's gone up. Then let me talk about Rosalind. Rosalind's great. Rosalind went to university and she got a degree in mathematics. And then she became a school teacher. And for some unknown reason, she became a driving instructor. And her confidence was a bit low. This is very recent. This is October. This is 2 months ago. And her confidence was very low. And I found out why. And her confidence was down. Her business was 25% capacity. And she didn't have the belief in marketing. She didn't know how to do it. She didn't think it could be done. She tried marketing in the past. It didn't work for her. She bought stuff. It didn't work for her. But I got her in on a boot camp. I did a 7-day boot camp with 25 driving instructors. My first boot camp with these drivers. This was a new service. It was in October, and I put an advert out there. So I won't talk about Rosalind now specifically. I talk about these 25 driving instructors. And I said, I'm going to do a boot camp. It's an online boot camp for 7 days. We're going to do 1 hour a day, starting on Sunday. We'll start Sunday night, and then everything else will be in the morning when you're doing eating your breakfast. And I'll be talking to you in the morning. But I'm going to do this for free. And I did. I did it for free. The only condition was this. 1, the person had to have a bad business. 2, they had to listen to me. 3, they had to go out there and do it. And I took these 25 driving instructors from really, really bad businesses, and we created over 200, by the end of the program, I actually did it over 14 days. And by the end of the program, we created, let me rephrase this. The previous 3 weeks, the 25 driving instructors, before they started working with me, had less than 10 inquiries. By the end of the program, they collectively had about 1,000 inquiries, sold about 300 courses, and generated £250,000 worth of business. And their issue was this, twofold. 1, they didn't have the marketing skills, and 2, they didn't have the self-belief. I gave them the marketing skills on day 1. Day 1, I said, this is what you need to do. And over the rest of the boot camp, I helped them with other little bits of marketing just to show them again. Yeah. But it's all about confidence. And they went sky high. And that's it, you see, self-belief. Most of them had limiting beliefs patterns. They had strings holding them back. And I showed them that, and I told them that. I said, look, you're being held back by others and by yourself. And this is where. And as soon as they started to see that, coupled with my marketing, they went, we can see your marketing works, but it's not working for me. No, because you've got these strings. They cut the strings and they went woof, like that. They went from 0 to hero.
Wow. That's awesome. You know, it's exactly like you said. A lot of people don't understand that the self-belief is the most important thing, because if it holds you, if you have the fears, if you have the I'm not good enough, I can't do it, maybe I can, maybe I can't, because who is believe he can and who is says he can't are both usually right. That's a famous phrase, and that's so true, because if, like you said, you don't believe in yourself, it doesn't matter what tools you will get a box of tools, but you don't believe that you can. How can you put yourself out there? How can you work and talk with people? And like when you're talking with a client, how can you like be sure that you can do it if you're not sure of yourself?
And this is where my future business is going to come into that. It's not just the skills, but it's helping you get the self-belief and the confidence to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where the mentors come in. That's where the coaches come in. That's where we need that person from outside. If it's maybe a mentor, a coach, or even a mastermind, or a place that you can build your confidence with. I love that. And can you share with us someone who inspired you, like to get into that, into business and all that? And keep you inspired?
There's not always one particular person.
Yeah.
It could depend on what mood I'm in.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, it's a very difficult question to ask. Now, I'm going to come up with one answer, and I think it could alienate half the people watching this, but I'm not talking about political beliefs here. I'm talking about inspiration from a certain way. That's Donald Trump. Now, he splits the world in half. Yeah. But even the people that don't like Donald Trump would be stupid not to look at him and take inspiration from him. And the easiest inspiration that you can take from Donald Trump is the fact that he has got so many haters, so many people who are awful to him, and really are awful. Doesn't matter if you don't like what he says. Yeah. Doesn't matter if you stand against his policies and his beliefs. The way that some people act to him is disgusting.
Yeah.
And he sees this. But he is so driven in what he believes. Now, sometimes that can have a negative consequence. You need to be open. But he's got
let's put the political side in the side there out there. We're talking about the inspiration. Yeah,
I'm talking about his inspiration, right? And I am talking about his drive and his determination. He believes in something, okay? Doesn't matter whether we disagree with his belief, but he is so fastened on and driven to that belief. That is inspiring. Now, I give you somebody else, Winston Churchill. Now, when I say Winston Churchill, a lot of people think about World War II and the achievements he did through World War II. If you look into Winston's background, his history was quite checkered. He had failures, he had successes. If you look at Gallipoli, that was a huge failure for the Royal Navy, and he was First Admiral. He was in charge of it. He got demoted because of what happened in Gallipoli. And there are other things as well. But he is an inspiration to me and many other people because he knew, this is slightly different, he knew what his values were. He knew what freedom was. He knew that freedom comes with a price tag. Sometimes that price tag is war and death.
Yeah.
Sometimes that price tag is to have a society that actually keeps us in a cage. And he knew that, but that gives us freedom within that cage. Now, outside of that cage comes anarchy. But he believed in that. Or that's sort of, I'm paraphrasing it. And so he's an inspiration there. There are so many different types of inspiration. There's a charity that I support called Speed of Sight. Speed of Sight is done by a guy called Mike Newman. Mike is blind. He's blind since birth. Now, I'm going to tell you, he is the world's fastest blind man on water. He is the world's fastest blind man on land, driving solo. He drives solo, blind. He did something with Audi.
Wow.
He raced Audi. So he took over to Italy for the Italian Audi branch. 2 race cars, 2 Audis, one against the other. Him, by the way, he was being guided by a walkie-talkie against a professional racing driver for Audi who was blindfolded, who was also being guided, Mike 1.
Wow.
Right? And what they do is they raise money. It's charities called Speed of Sight, SIGHT.org. And they raise money for people with disabilities who can never drive. So it could be blind people, or it could be people with severe physical disabilities. And that charity and the people that go on that charity, because they get people driving. It's off-road driving or circuit driving. But if you're blind, you can drive because they've got cars with 2 steering wheels. And
Okay.
those people that do that and that charity are an inspiration to me. And they're an inspiration because it comes with the value of heart. It comes with the inspiration that anything is achievable. So sometimes when I'm having a bad day, I'm thinking a bit down on myself, I think of those people. Geez, who am I to have a bad day? And they're blind. Well, Mike's blind and he's created this wonderful charity and he's helping so many people go out there. We can find inspiration anywhere. It doesn't just have to be one person. We don't have to be fixed on that one person.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. First of all, that you donate to a place like that. And that's true. That's so amazing what you said about Mike, right? The one that found. That's so amazing that he founded that foundation and helped so many people with disabilities to drive, because driving is kind of freedom to people with disabilities. It gives them independence and they're not stuck in their place. So
Absolutely.
That's amazing. And about what you said about Winston Churchill, I want to go back a bit about that sacrifice that he's done. It's exactly like in our business, the time that we sacrifice, the places that we sacrifice, like for example, not being in the comfort zone and watching Netflix all day long. It's a kind of a sacrifice. It's not war or people, but it is something that we are sacrificing to be a greater person.
Margaret Thatcher, 80s Prime Minister in the UK, she got up at 4 o'clock in the morning. She went to bed at midnight. 20-hour days she was doing, and she was devoting that time to the things that are important, you know. And that was devotion. That's another great inspiration. That person was devoted. Did everybody believe in her political agenda? No. Did she do a lot of good? Yeah. And some people will argue that she didn't do as good as she could have done.
There will always be haters.
Absolutely. But was she devoted to her people? Was she devoted to it in the way that she wanted to create it? She was. And that is an inspiration.
That's amazing. People that are dedicated to their cause, their values, and they're doing everything for it. Loved who you mentioned also. And we are getting into the end of the interview, and I wanted to ask you, if you can go back in time, what advice will you give to your younger self?
Easy. Get a mentor and coach. Get it and pay for it and be accountable from day one. What I did, I took a very long, hard journey. I said to myself, unlike thousands of people, I said to myself, I'm going to make this from nothing, and I'm going to make money from nothing, and everything I do is going to pay for itself. So remember me telling you at the beginning, I got that laptop for free because I changed my mobile phone contract. That's that, right? I think the only thing I spent was about £20 on building my own website. And that was the only thing I spent. And I made a ton of mistakes. And I was working during the day, right? So I was doing this in the evening. If I'd have just said to myself, I'm going to portion this small amount of money, let's say £50, or $50 to a mentor, and this meant and just do 1 hour a month with that mentor and just spend that 50 quid. That would have saved me months of work. Months. And you translate that into income. I could have done, where I am now in my business and my life, 10, 11 years on, maybe I could have done this 5 or 6 years ago. And that's the real thing. So if I could have gone back in time, and I think the biggest take-home point today really is you've got the who and you've got the how. How are you going to do it? Or who can you outsource it to? Or who can you share this with? Or who can you bring in? It doesn't have to cost a fortune. I've been speaking with somebody recently. He's a really nice guy. And he said to me, David, I need a mentor. I need a mentor. I said, okay, well, fine. It's great that you're going to need a mentor. Yeah, but David, I don't have any money. Right. Can I mentor? Can you mentor me, David? And I went, no, because you've got to pay me. But there are people out there that you can get mentoring from for free. Or you can go out there and read a book for free. But it was great that he recognized that he needed a mentor at this stage.
What you said that people can take the how and the
how and the why. You know, you've got something in front of you. It's like the how or the who. How can I do this, or who can do this for me? And sometimes in between is that mentor. If I can go back in time, get yourself a mentor. Some people will mentor you for free. Some people will mentor you just for maybe you doing something in return or just a little bit of money. But get a mentor on track.
But show your commitment, because like if you're just expecting it for free, you will not be committed. No, because you're not putting yourself out there. You don't put something.
And that mentor will soon walk away from you. There are very few people that will mentor you for free, but you've got to show them that you're doing this, because that then will give them the energy. And as soon as you start making sales, you've got to say to that mentor, look, I want to pay you now. Yeah. Now that mentor might not be with you for long. A mentor might only be with you for 2 or 3 months. And then you move on to a different mentor for a different project or what. Get that person in your life right now. If I could go back to them, I'd say do that.
Love it. If you had one chance to deliver the one message that will stay written in history, what will it be?
Be good to yourself. If you're good to yourself, and it's a double message, lead with your heart. Do things that are right from your heart, okay? And when you do that, be good to yourself first. Lead with your heart, be good to yourself first, because once you're good to yourself and leading with your heart, that's when you can start to help other people. I've seen a lot of people in the past, and they've gone through bad experiences, and they say, oh, what do you want to do in life? I want to be a counsellor. You hear that a lot. I want to be a coach. Why do you want to be a coach? I want to be a counsellor. Well, I've gone through bad things myself, and I want to stop other people from going through bad things, which is a very, very lovely thing to do. But they've not yet fixed themselves. You've got to fix yourself first. Think with your heart. Fix yourself first. You don't have to be perfect. You know, there's perfection. But fix yourself first. Get your brain right, and then you can go help others. And when you start helping others, that's when people will help you and start paying you.
Love it. That's so true, because if you don't love yourself, how can you help others? How can others even give you something, because you don't love yourself? You don't give to yourself. I just love it, David. Love it. So,
David, how? Problems, because we can. We'll always will have problems. Don't let those be obstacles. But learn to love yourself.
Always have. But love yourself, like you said.
Yeah, you got it.
So how can people know more about you?
That's cool. So what I can do is, thank you for asking. I can give you a couple of links. So I am setting up a website called Niche Marketing Hero right now. It's not quite ready. And I've got my Facebook link as well. And so you're welcome. Please, everybody, join the Facebook group. That's going to be a lot of fun. It's all about helping you take those baby steps in your business, find the niche. It's all about you finding more customers, how to find the first 1,000 customers, how to find the first 1,000 followers, how to make the first $1,000, you know? It's all about those, getting started, getting the confidence, putting the skills in place, and getting you going. So yeah, I'll give you the links and you can put them on the video.
Great, amazing. So David, first of all, I want to say thank you for being here. It was a pleasure to host you. People, if you love that video, give us a thumbs up, and I will put the links below. So join David in his groups and to his Facebook page. And you can take something from here, from that video. And you know, David talked a lot about here. There were a lot of gold nuggets here. So start with, this is 2019. Start with at least 2 challenges. That is no series for at least 60 days. Try it for 60 days. That's it. See how much time you get in return.
No TV.
Yeah, no TV. Exactly. And start to journal, start to reflect, start to see what is going on there in your heart, and how can you start loving yourself again, and how can you develop your self-belief. Try those 2 for 60 days for the year 2019. And David, again, thank you for being here. I really appreciate that. And again, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to get more tools, and the links will be below. Just join David. Have an amazing and productive day. I will see you next time. And David, again, thank you.
Eden, thanks very much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. I'll see you on Facebook. Take care, mate.
Take care.